Welcome back, and here we are in the concluding episode of our Ramayana series. Ramayana, as you know, is the great Indian epic. And in case you haven't followed this series, I suggest you to go back to the part 1 and then start listening to it. So far, we have covered all the events leading up to the final battle between Rama and Ravana. And let me briefly go through the characters on each side of this war so that you can understand it better. So on one side you have Ram and his brother Lakshman, and of course they are fighting the war because Rama's wife Sita was abducted by Ravana. So one side you have Ram and Lakshman, and along with them you have the monkey army led by Hanuman and Sugriv's son Angad also, he's also there. So they have this Vanara or monkey army on their side, and they are going to take on Ravana, who lives in Lanka, which is now Sri Lanka. And on Ravana's side you have his brothers, his son, and Ravana is really adamant that he's not going to return Sita to Rama. And that's why the war is going to take place. And we have also discussed how Hanumana went as a messenger to Lanka and tried certain negotiations, although he didn't do it quite well. But what he did well was he was able to burn many parts of Lanka during his travels. And now he comes back to Ram and Lakshmana and gives the news that he has met Sita there, and Sita had given a message for Rama that he should come and take her with him. And the message also said that if Rama didn't come, then Ravana was going to kill her at some point. So naturally there was this anxiety on this side, on Rama's side or Lakshmana's side. Now what they decided is that they are going to march, and they are going to march as the army. And the army was full of these monkeys, the Vanaras. So they start their journey and they start marching towards Lanka. Mind you, they are still in the southern parts and in the mainland of India. And from there they are going to go to Lanka, which is across the ocean. Now they walk through the forests, and they travel quite fast because this is full of monkey army, and monkeys are really jumping and running at quick pace. At some points we find that Ram and Lakshman, because they cannot keep up with the pace of these monkeys, they are being carried by the monkeys. And eventually they reach the shores, the southernmost tip of India, and now there's the ocean, and across that there is Lanka. Now how they're going to go there? For that they come up with a plan. The monkey army gets busy in preparing a really long bridge for to navigate the distance, and they make use of all the natural resources, the rocks and stones and woods and everything, and they have obviously the divine blessings with them. So they do that, and they're somehow able to build that bridge, and they reach the shores of Lanka. And slowly and gradually they surround the city of Lanka from all the sides. And Ravana, who is at the center of this city, who is looking, who is examining and scrutinizing the situation around the city, he notices that the city has been surrounded from all the sides now. So the war is going to be there. That's pretty much the case. Now, it could have still been avoided had Ravana listened to some of his consultants and one brother, for example, one of his brothers, Vibhishana, who kept persuading him that he could have still avoided the war, he could have still returned Sita to Rama, and things could have been negotiated. But Ravana wouldn't listen. It was all about his pride now, his ego. And at some point, when these conversations, these discussions were going on, it became difficult for his brother Vibhishana to get along with him, and so he parts his ways. He says that I'm not going to stick with you, and I'm not going to participate in this war. This is clearly wrong. You're doing this for your own ego, and I'm not going to be with you. Ravana doesn't stop him, and Vibhishana leaves. He leaves and he goes to Rama. And Rama's aide, Hanuman, Lakshman, everybody, Sugriv, they all are quite perplexed. They are confused at why this person has come. Is he trying to play some tricks? Is there some trickery involved here? But what Rama does is he listens to Vibhishana. And then he consults with other people. He consults with Hanuman. And he finally comes up with a decision that if somebody has come and has come to him and is seeking his help, then he must listen and believe that person. And so he does, and Vibhishana joins the Rama's side, and now he's going to fight from their side. Ravana, on the other hand, he still has his brothers. One of his brothers is Kumbhakarna, who's a giant and who's very powerful, and who's somebody who eats a lot and sleeps a lot. He sleeps for months at a time. And then there is another brother called Meghnad, who is also very dexterous and powerful as a warrior. Then his son Indrajit, also very powerful, because the name itself suggests Indrajit, that is somebody who has defeated Lord Indra. Indra is one of the gods in Hinduism. So he has all these warriors with him, and not to forget Ravana himself. He's a 10-headed king. And as I've told you before, this could be metaphorical because of his strengths or powers, or in some ways it could be literal, that he literally had supposedly 10 heads. So that was the case there. And now finally the battle begins, and it really turns very ferocious very quickly. And what happens from Lanka's side is their soldiers, they start attacking Rama's army, which is the monkey army literally. They start attacking them with serpent darts, which are really powerful and poisonous. And when they strike those soldiers on the monkey army side, a lot of them die. In fact, some of them also hit Ram and Lakshmana, and they also fall. And they fall down on the ground and they lay unconscious there. And everybody thinks that the two are dead now. So there is a chaos in the monkey army. In fact, Ravana, when he looks at it, he starts celebrating and he calls on Sita, and he takes his Vimana, which is kind of the ancient mythical plane, and he carries her on that Vimana and shows that sight of Rama and Lakshmana laying on the ground, and they are dead. But then one of the maids there, who's with Sita, she tells her that they are not dead. Look at their faces. They are glowing, and dead people don't look like that. And I can sense that they're still alive. And the same thing Sugriva tells to his army, to Hanuman and everybody else, that look at them, they are not dead. They're just unconscious at the moment. So gather and rise and fight again. And so they do, and eventually Ram gets up, and Lakshman is still unconscious and is treated He is treated with the help of certain herbs which Hanuman brings from afar off, from a distant mountain, and then they recover, and once again the battle resumes. And this time they gain more strength, more power, and Ram kills off Ravana's brothers as well as his son. And now it all comes down to Ravana, and was a great, great warrior. Not to forget, who is in front of him is also very powerful Rama, was literally the incarnation of Vishnu, one of the Trinity in the Hindu mythology. So, what Ravana does is he attacks Lakshmana first, and Lakshmana falls once again. And this time it appears that he is going to die. And once again, Hanuman is being sent to the mountain to bring a particular herb, Sanjeevani that is, and he doesn't quite know which one, how to identify that herb. So what he does is he brings the entire mountain there, he lifts it on his shoulder and then carries it to the side, and then once again Lakshman recovers. So now finally we have the battle between Ram and Ravana, who is a 10-headed king, and Ravana tries to kill him, to cut his heads, but it doesn't work. But then Vibhishana tells him what to do. Vibhishana, who is the brother of Ravana, he knows the secret where the real vulnerability lies, and Rama has to use the ultimate weapon, which is the Brahmastra, and pierce the chest of Ravana, which is what he does next. And he kills Ravana, and that's the end of it. He brings Sita back home to his kingdom Ayodhya, and once again he is celebrated as the king of Ayodhya. So there you get the two festivals. The festival of Dashera is celebrated when supposedly Rama killed Ravana, and the festival of Diwali is celebrated when Rama returned to his kingdom, to his city in Ayodhya, and everybody lit lights trying to welcome Rama in the home. So that's how the story goes of Ramayana, and that's obviously a very short version. And there are so many facets, so many sides and philosophical aspects of it, which I couldn't really discuss in such short span of time. But I'm sure I'll do that in some of the future episodes, where I will talk about particular angles, particular sides of it, particular philosophical viewpoints that emerge in this entire story. So once we have covered this story, I'm sure for the listeners, for the audience, it'll become easier to understand and deliberate upon those ideas. And that was the intention behind doing this series, that we get familiar with the story, with the basic story, and so that later on we can talk about different versions, different philosophies of it, and we can debate some interesting ideas. So I hope you enjoyed this series. If you have any questions for me, please let me know, and keep following the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll keep talking about new stories, new books, and learn new things. Thank you.